What's going on? It's PHNX Cardinals Emergency Podcast Edition. You guys already lighten up the chat. Yeah, Jesse Ventura, no doubt about it. Unfucking real what's going on and absolutely as far as news dump, this is the most news dumpiest day you could possibly get in the NFL offseason. The Friday before Memorial Day weekend. The week before June 1st, when, of course, that starts to put things from 2023 league year into 2024 league year. What we're talking about, the Arizona Cardinals from the clouds came out of nowhere on this wonderful Friday here in the Valley. They release wide receiver one, DeAndre Hopkins. He is no longer wearing the red and white. He won't don those new clean uniforms for the Cardinals. Anytime in the future, his tenure here is done in the desert. You guys lighten it up. Nick saying, what are y'all mad for? D-Hop did not want to be here. He quit on the team. Remember, he said he wanted stable management. He didn't even give JG and Monty a chance. Good riddance. So that's part of the crowd out there. Very polarizing topic because people obviously trying to figure out what's going on. DeAndre Hopkins going into his age 31 year. You know, people feel like he had some decent football ahead of him. He had 2 years left on his contract. Why couldn't you even pull off a deal? Well, the big sticking point was the $19 million that any team that would acquire DeAndre Hopkins would have to pay him this season. And nobody wanted to pay even a seventh-round draft pick, even a 2025 seventh-round draft pick. Mike A., not even a damn ham sandwich. It's Bo Brack of PHNX Cardinals. Johnny Venerable, unfortunately, because this came out of nowhere, not available to do this. Thank you, Elizabeth. Left the golf course to do this. Producer Emma and I were out there in Mesa. We have our studios in downtown Phoenix. Dropped everything. I was out there in a foursome with Cam Cox. Saul Bookman's son, Alex, who's an absolute ringer out there on the golf course. Justin Spears from ESPN Tucson. Emma was doing the rounds out there. And we were having a blast. And then my phone lights up like a Christmas tree because of this news. The Cardinals outright released DeAndre Hopkins. Unbelievable, Emma. And everybody here in the chat, thanks for joining us. Hit that like button despite maybe you not liking this. But it comes down to Monty Ossenfort, the general manager of this organization, making the decision to tear this thing down to the studs. The Arizona Cardinals are not wanting to roll over, because once you get to past June 1st here for the Cardinals, then you start to split DeAndre Hopkins' cap hit from 2023 to 2024 as well. So by absorbing the $22.6 million in dead money that they're going to in 2023, it doesn't cut it in half to 11 and change in 2024. You just have to tear the Band-Aid off right now. And you can roll over the cap because they do get cap savings in this. They save just around $8 million towards the cap, but they incur about $22.6 million in dead cap money. He was going to be a $30 million cap hit, one of the largest cap hits in the league, especially at the non-quarterback position. So DeAndre Hopkins was going to be expensive. And at 31, obviously, when he's out there on the field, when he's healthy, when he's catching passes from Kyler Murray, he's the DeAndre Hopkins that we saw for 35 games over 3 seasons. He's a guy that had 2,700 yards, 17 touchdowns. He was a problem for any opposing defense. But, we started to see things that we weren't used to seeing from DeAndre Hopkins, like missing football games for multiple reasons, not just, injuries. We used to think that DeAndre Hopkins, if he could stand up, he could play. He was going to play. D-Hop doesn't miss games. Remember players saying that in the Cardinals organization? Well, he ended up missing quite a few games over the last 2 seasons. And at 31 years old and that cap price, it just wasn't something that teams viewed feasible or worth giving up anything of any, value for the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to continue to lean on you guys today, not because JV's gone, but also because this is something where Cardinals fans, this is not something to be celebrated, even though this might be viewed by the organization as a necessary evil. But, what was there a future with D-Hop? It certainly felt like at the end of last season, the two sides started to sour on each other, right? We had DeAndre Hopkins. I was there at the practice going into the Falcons week where it looked like he removed himself from practice, took his helmet off, walked into the facility, and then the knee injury, the phantom knee injury, he was having issues with his surgically repaired knee that took him at the end of the 2021 season. So DeAndre Hopkins obviously wasn't too happy with the organization, and he's somebody that's kind of he's absolutely like, his legacy is something that is so important to him at this point in his career. This isn't like J.J. Watt, where he's got his 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. His bust in Canton is rubber stamped at this point. You know, it's not like inevitable. DeAndre Hopkins, we heard him on Hard Knocks. He was a guy that is consumed by it. He's a guy that's very he's infatuated with how he's going to make his way and continue his legacy, because he was on a Hall of Fame trajectory. And I don't think anybody could say right now that he's a surefire Hall of Famer. He's got to do some work to get there, and doing it on a rebuilding team with its QB1 out, I don't think that's anything that he viewed as something he wanted to be a part of. So what did the Arizona Cardinals and the conversations that they had with DeAndre Hopkins go so far south that they figured, like, before June 1st, we got to get this contract off the books. By hell or high water, we got to get this contract off the books. If we can find a suitor, good. If not, Albert Breer said this a long time ago, and myself included, thought it was foolish. I scoffed at it. Johnny and I, if you guys look back at the receipts, we're going to look embarrassing about, they're not going to just outright release DeAndre Hopkins. Well, May 26th at 9:45 in the morning, Arizona time, Arizona Cardinals outright released DeAndre Hopkins, and now it seems like it's inevitable. He's destined to probably join a team like the Buffalo Bills and make Von Miller's dreams come to fruition, and him join a contender and play alongside Stephon Diggs and play with Josh Allen, the guy that he named number 1 as far as top 5 quarterbacks he wants to play with. It's just the biggest thing, and I said this past week, it's going to be viewed as a strike against Monty Ossenfort. And it's a nearly unwinnable situation with Ossenfort when you start to kind of take inventory of what you had as far as viable assets to help this rebuild. You thought it was a 3rd overall pick, cashed in on that, swindled the Texans like you did for D-Hop years ago, and then DeAndre Hopkins. And now the Arizona Cardinals, the only thing they get is a bunch of dead money now, but it frees up cap in the future. And we'll get into what that means for the Arizona Cardinals. And it impacts their franchise signal color. You got something, Emma?
I was just going to ask, because you said, like, you think he's going to Buffalo Bills. Do you really think that's where he's going?
Yeah, I mean, Vaughn speaks with him. They work out. He said that there's a lot, he's not a GM, but he feels like he was hopeful and optimistic that it was going to happen. And it was something that, I think when you look at, I'm sure the gambling sites probably already have them as an overwhelming favor at this point to go out there. We'll have to check to see if BetMGM has anything up for D-Hop and where his next team odds are. But I would bet the Bills are overwhelming favorite. Yeah, Shane Gavin saying the worst thing is Albert Breer was right. Absolutely. That was tough. Rafa saying, I think it's the Bills also. C-Level saying, I think it all boils down to Hop's practice habits, lack of availability. They're trying to build a team-first mentality. Love D-Hop, but he needs to be on a team that's ready to compete this year. Absolutely. I mean, he was part of the solution in Houston. He was part of the solution as far as this team getting out of the rebuilding phase, and maybe too early, but helping mature and develop Kyler Murray in his second season. And they were kind of upstart. They ended up falling apart at the end of the season, as Cliff Kingsbury teams do, going 8-8. To miss the playoffs, and then to come out of the gates as one of the top teams in 2021. He was a big part of that. But then his hamstring started to flare up a couple times. Then his knee, had to have a simple procedure on his knee. And then he had his he had the PED suspension. 3 things that have taken him off the field. And if you look at, wide receivers, it doesn't get any easier once you're older than the age of 30. He's going to be 31 years old. Lil Dreezy 13 hitting us with the $1.09 super chat. WTF are we doing? Don't even get none back. Shake my head. Really, Monty? Look, Monty Ossenfort was put in a tough spot with DeAndre Hopkins. And Monty Ossenfort overall was put in a tough spot being the successor to Steve Keim, who left this team in shambles, absolute just shambles. When you look at most situations, like you're having to use a power washer to clean up the mess left by Steve Keim. Like there's crap on the walls. It's disgusting. Like the status of this organization was as poor as it possibly could be, with guaranteed money going to guys that are over the hill and that aren't playing premium positions, draft picks that weren't utilized at premium positions, guys that you had to potentially pay big money that hadn't maybe earned it at this point in the NFL. And Monty Ossenfort has had to make a lot of unpopular decisions to tear this team down to the studs. Like what this does for the organization going into the 2024 offseason, and we heard this was like a precursor to this. This was a little bit of foreshadowing back in the day by Michael Bidwell when he joined the Dave Pash podcast. Oh, look who just jumps in here. As surprising as the trade itself, my co-host Johnny Venerable joins us here on the podcast. And Johnny, I'm just starting to kind of dive into it. Monty Ossenfort put in a very unpopular situation to have to make all these tough decisions in order to clean up the mess from his predecessor, Steve Keim. But what he's doing here is he's trying to clear up things for the 2024 offseason. Like it's not for one thing in particular, as far as clearing a cap space for, hey, we're going to go get this player, or, hey, we're going to move off of this big contract and we need the cap wherewithal to do so. But it gives him the ability, and the Cardinals have the ability, without having to pay DeAndre Hopkins and absorbing $22.5 million this season, a chance to pivot any direction they want to go in the 2024 offseason.
100%. And again, we're talking about 2024, but we have to get through the 2023 season. And I think that is the most difficult aspect of this, is that when we were talking about the perception of trading DeAndre Hopkins during the offseason, the meat of the offseason before the draft, it was where you're going to get back real tangible assets for 2023. You're going to be able to see a second round pick or a third and a fourth running around the field and say, okay, well, we got something for that. This harkens back to a lesser extent, but still the same, the Tyrann Mathieu situation, the debacle that came when Steve Keim gave Tyrann Mathieu money. Tyrann Mathieu got hurt. He wasn't healthy. They had to cut him, right? They got nothing in return. And then Cardinals subsequently had to watch a potential future Hall of Fame player go out and perform well for other teams. And so for me, I don't know how you cannot draw parallels to that. Sure, I understand it. 2024, cap space, asset acquisition. We've talked about it ad nauseum. But for 2023, the Cardinals aren't going to have a top 10 to 12 player at the position, depending on who you ask, for the entirety of the season. And they're going to get nothing back in return for him. And that's the most difficult part. As we've got AZ Fan 1998, $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Believe in Monty. It was a very hard move that needed to happen. The Cardinals save a lot of cap next season. Watch out for rookie Michael Wilson. And again, it's okay to be like, I don't put any of this on the current regime at all. 0%. They tried. We know they tried since January to move DeAndre Hopkins, and they weren't able to. And it was his money. And depending on who you talk to now in the media, folks are saying, well, at the end of the day, Hopkins wouldn't take a pay cut. So that's why this move didn't happen. And I think that if you're going to be mad at somebody today, you can be mad at Steve Keim. Steve Keim formulated this deal. You can be a little upset at DeAndre Hopkins too, but to throw stones at Monty Ossenfort or Jonathan Gannon, I think it's probably fall on deaf ears, because those two individuals are doing the best to reset and level set. And it's what we talked about after the draft, Bo. I did not see a scenario. It was going to be very difficult when we concluded our draft coverage in late April, early May. Like, how do the Cardinals move forward with DeAndre Hopkins, given everything that had happened? And we thought it would be difficult, possible, but difficult. Well, in actuality, it wasn't possible. They were never going to, this was always the date they were going to release him.
Yeah, it's certainly with hindsight, in hindsight, just popping up here immediately, being 2020, when you and I don't want to say we're naive, because we're the biggest ones saying this was inevitable that they were going to trade him. That nobody was taking the bait league wide. Nobody was taking the bait, and nobody, for that matter, had the ability to take on DeAndre Hopkins' contract without him giving the slightest bit, with the littlest bit, to take on a 31-year-old wide receiver at $19 million. It was nearly unfeasible. And, to give up something, GMs are smart. There's only 32 of them in the league. They have capologists. They have people that do all the heavy lifting behind the scenes and realize that the Arizona Cardinals, they're smarter than you and I, to where they realize, hey, there's really no leverage here for this team. If D-Hop's staying at that number, it's going to be damn near impossible. Let's just wait this out. What's the point? I mean, because you said, like, those checkpoints were gone. Like, the draft is come and gone. Nobody had the sense of urgency to move for D-Hop. So what's the point now? And the ball's in the Cardinals' court, because if they make a move releasing him post June 1st or trading him June 1st, regardless of what the move is, it's $11 million cap charge to them in 2024. And that's the ultimate thing that they wanted to accomplish here, in clearing the books for the offseason after this season.
Well, I think we also need to talk about kind of the elephant in the room as it relates to, how does this affect, like, Kyler Murray long term? And yeah. I think it's, like I say, it's significant, but you have to have that conversation now. Like, they're eating Hopkins money this year to level set for 2024. That means everything's on the table. You have to look at it like that. Everything's on the table. There is no sure thing on this roster outside of the young players that are making no money.
Right.
And for Kyler Murray, like, I believe that he has ingratiated himself with the staff. They really like him, but he's expensive and he's hurt right now. And so, I did not want to believe over the course of the offseason that the Cardinals would cut DeAndre Hopkins. I couldn't fathom it. I thought it'd be a terrible look. Here we are. It's late. Yeah. It's mid to late May, and they've done it. Well, I don't want to believe that the Cardinals would sit Kyler Murray all year in an effort to deal him and try to tank the 2023 season. But I think that's on the table right now. Everything is on the table for this franchise in attempting to level set. And here's what I want. I may make a quick point, because we talked about this earlier, and the landing spot for Hopkins made easier, not perfect, but made easier by the fact that the Paris Johnson Jr. trade down and then trade up, and the accumulation from the Will Anderson trade, I think, makes this a little bit more easier to stomach for Cardinal fans. It's not perfect. You would love to be sitting here with a top 50, 70 selection in exchange for D-Hop. Mm-hmm. But I do think that with the franchise now having so much draft capital next year, with potential for more, depending on if they deal other players, that you're not going to live and die by a top 100 pick for D-Hop. It's not as important as it would have been, say, if you had just taken Paris Johnson Jr. third overall. So I think that we talked about that, I think, earlier in the week, but I think that's important to emphasize today.
Yeah. Funk phenomenon. Looks like Arizona is the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. Boosties just saying Arizona takes on the entire 22.6. Sorry, I got a couple neutrals in me from the golf course. 2.6. My God, $1 million cap hit this season.
They're eating all of his money.
They do save money at the end of the day against the cap. That's dead money, but they do save just under $8 million towards the cap, because he was a $30 million cap hit overall. And then they don't have a cap charge on D-Hop after this season. And to your point, everything's on the table. This is not what they're, obviously it's going to be a product of this is going to be losing football games, right? And we'll look at the wide receiver room without DeAndre Hopkins here, but what it's going to do is Monty Ossenfort the ability to pivot any direction he wants. So if he's given, the Cardinals pick, say it's 4th overall, 5th overall, 6th overall, and they see some Kyler Murray, and they're like, we want to keep Kyler. He's going to make $50 million next year towards the cap. We can restructure, get him down, and it's going to be more team friendly. We can build around him, or we can trade him, and we can eat $46 million in dead money and trade off of Kyler Murray, and then draft and develop a quarterback, get that rookie quarterback contract. Now, it's not as valuable when you're paying $46 million in dead money, but after that, it's a lot more. Like, you get 4 seasons, you can build around a guy for peanuts at that relative to the position.
I think we also, like, is there a possibility? I saw this floated out there by Diana Rossini that it doesn't become official till Tuesday. Is there a
Yeah.
possibility did you address this? Like, it could be the Rodney Hudson 2.0 scenario where you leak your, well, I mean, they didn't leak it. They said they're releasing him, but could a team swoop in for a late round selection?
Yeah, I mean,
you
Howard
think that's possible?
Balzer texted me and he said, I mean, because of when this went down and because it is the most news dumpy of all news dumpy days possible, right? The Friday before Memorial Day weekend, that the league offices probably would not put this through until Tuesday. So yeah, DeAndre Hopkins, even in the team putting out the release saying DeAndre Hopkins has been released, I don't think it becomes official. So could they pivot? It'd be interesting because there's an official release. I don't know if the Raiders, when they were talking Rodney Hudson, that was all via reports. I don't think they officially released him and notified the media and obviously said their goodbyes via social media. So that is interesting. But it's as of between now and then, there's some weird international waters maybe that some teams could enter and maybe swoop in if they wanted to, but they would still have to, if in order to do so, they would have to get DeAndre, either take on $19 million or get him to come down. You'd have to do that during a holiday weekend. It'd have to be a very motivated team.
Yeah, and I think it's not out of the realm of possibility, but it does feel like we've had plenty of time to do that. And you could have told everybody, hey, we're cutting them this day. Give me your best offers. They probably did that. And so I'm not expecting a deal. I think this is basically almost as official as it gets. Very telegraphed. Don't think for a second this wasn't telegraphed by the team. Holiday weekend, people taking Friday off, people out on the golf course hiding this, because again, this doesn't have to be made official until June 1st, which is next week. They had time to do this during the work week. They hit it on a Friday afternoon because the blowback would be immense. I mean, Cardinal fans, I don't know if they're in a state of shock, but it's like, I mean, did you renew your season tickets thinking you were going to see DeAndre Hopkins, and then DeAndre Hopkins isn't a part of the club and you got nothing back in return? It is 100% a poop sandwich that you have to eat in the short term for dividends in the long term. And it's telegraphed. They're taking all the money now, so it's gone for good. But again, we talked about it maybe 2 months ago, and it's worth bringing up right now. As Sly said, ruined a 3-day weekend. It was not going to be feasible. If you want to play conspiracy theorist and put your tinfoil hat on, it was not going to be feasible, Bo, to eat D-Hop's dead money and to eat Kyler Murray's dead money in the same offseason, where you have removed one of those variables and maybe you have shown your hand. I don't think they have to an extreme extent, but you would be remiss if you didn't say that option is open now. You have that option. You have that trump card, if you will, to eat a year of Kyler Murray's money in 2024 if he is not on the team, because you are not eating DeAndre Hopkins' money. And those were the two most robust salaries that you had to potentially factor in. This team, I mean, I thought if DeAndre Hopkins was on the team this year, I felt really good about Kyler Murray's future with the Cardinals because of their maybe wherewithal to try to win games this year. Cutting DeAndre Hopkins is I think a smoke signal that they liked Kyler Murray, but they don't love him at that number, and it could go south rather quickly if the season goes south. I hope that's not the case, but you just have to be realistic.
It gives them options. And if you're an NFL roster and you're not GM'd by Steve Keim and you're an architect, you like to have a bunch of different options, because obviously we know in this game, it's a brutal game. Guys, production falls off a cliff. Guys get injured. So many different things come. That's why the guaranteed contract, fully guaranteed contracts basically don't exist at the NFL level because of this. And when you've got a lot of money tied up, obviously there's a little wiggle room. But if you got another player that's potentially putting a new regime in a spot to where it could be kind of something that stands in that way, this just puts Monty Ossenfort, Jonathan Gannon, his new coaching staff in a position to go any direction that they want. And, I think the conversation still, especially for the Kyler Murray conversation, it really becomes tough if you do, and we can show the odds here. Like the Arizona Cardinals have about a 30% chance between their pick and the Texans pick to have that number 1 overall pick. Thank you, Emma. Yeah, the odds to secure the number 1 pick in the 2024 draft, according to ESPN, the Cardinals' own pick is the highest at 18%. With the Texans, it's 13%. And with that, you have a very hard conversation as an organization of, okay, do we want to take on $46 million in dead money to facilitate a trade for Kyler Murray, but then get ourselves in the Caleb Williams business for the next 5 seasons for sure on a very team-friendly rookie deal? It gives you that opportunity to do it without any problems anymore.
If you have a connection to Steve Keim and you're on this roster,
yeah,
you are not safe by any means.
I'm sorry. You're guilty by association.
If you have a connection to Big Steve and your contract is robust, and I still think the draft picks of last year are going to be given every opportunity to come in and succeed. They make no money, right? You're not getting rid of Trey McBride or Majay Sant. But if you've been around for a hot minute and you're on a 2nd or 3rd deal and you're affiliated with one Steve Keim, it doesn't matter if you're Kyler Murray or DeAndre Hopkins or Budda Baker now. Everything's on the table. And these are the growing pains that come with a full-blown rebuild, Bo Brock.
Unbelievable chat today. Ryan's, the direction that they're going is called, quote, professional, respectable, hardworking, high football character. Remember, egos will not be tolerated. That was something that Monty Ossenfort said in his introductory press conference. Now, people pointed their fingers like, oh, he's talking about Kyler Murray. Look out, Kyler Murray. Well, it's team-wide. It's organizationally wide. It goes from the guys who are in the front office to the scouting department to especially the roster, the coaching staff. They're not going to tolerate that. And sure, I'm sure it rubbed the organization the wrong way where they had DeAndre Hopkins where they're playing ball, trying to figure out a deal, and he's going out there and he's playing kissy with, top 5 quarterbacks he played with, and he doesn't even, he says because Kyler's injured, but why don't you just, give a little bit of love to the guy that fed you the rock the last 3 seasons over 35 games.
We've got 2 super chats. One from I think Jopie at $4.99. The money was workable though. After he gets a ring with Mahomes, he'll sign somewhere for $17.5 million, big contract. OBJ got $15 million after 2 torn ACLs, and I think we had thought at the time, Bo, that the OBJ contract was good for D-Hop and the prospects of trading him. But what it ended up doing was it was not good because
there's 4 void years on it.
Yeah, it gave DeAndre Hopkins a false sense of security to not take a pay cut, and he didn't. Yeah. And that's what has come out. Like D-Hop said, nope, OBJ's making this money. I'm better than OBJ, and I'm not going to take a pay cut.
I don't disagree with that. He's right.
And that's what's right. And so Cardinals could not move him because of his money. It was not because of the player he is or he's become or that he's been devalued. Teams just did not think he was worth that price tag. And I don't really care if he gets more money or less money in the free agent market. Like it's over now. The Cardinals are taking the brunt of it. Z Professor, $5 super chat. I've never been in here for an emergency pod, but the facts you guys drop everything you do for this, mad respect for you guys. Well, I appreciate that, Z Professor. Well, I don't want to say it's an important day, but it's a day that we've been kind of dreading for a fan base that needs some positivity. And I thought for the longest time it was going to be hard to do this show when they traded him for a mid-round pick.
Yeah.
When you see it come across your headline page that DeAndre Hopkins has been outright released, it cuts to your soul as a football fan to be able to watch a Hall of Fame player come to your organization and light it on fire and in the best possible way, set the world on fire. And then to turn around and say, well, we're actually just going to release him because of financial purposes into the future of 18 months, effective in 2024 in the 2024 season. That's hard here in May of 2022 to stomach.
Yeah. And, as far as the emergency pod and breaking news, as far as it goes with this team, that's what we're about. That's what we do at PHNX Sports. That's what we do at PHNX Cardinals. So there's breaking news. We are live. We're talking about it with that team's community because we're a sports community. And if it's good news, if it's bad news like this, we're having that conversation. That's what we are all about. And we really appreciate that. Respect to you, and thank you for the kind words.
Mhm.
We're about that. We're also about BetMGM. We're about those spreads, Johnny. Can't wait during the season, even though it's without D-Hop. We're going to be out there 17 times this fall, hyping up Cardinals games, pre and post games, halftime shows.
Yeah, we love our friends at BetMGM. If you haven't checked them out yet, what are you waiting for? Future odds right now for the Arizona Cardinals, at least in 2023, not looking that great, Brack. I think they were an underdog in every game before this trade. And goodness, I'm sure this will affect the trade, or excuse me, the spreads and the lines, even more so in the favor of the Cardinals opponents. But again, you shouldn't be an opponent. You should be in favor of BetMGM, as we are. Every Saturday and Wednesday, you can claim your bonus bet on the house. Fans are automatically going to receive a bonus bet upon logging into their account. Bet expires after 72 hours, so don't wait. You can check it out right now at BetMGM, and you can also check us out the first Friday of every month. Knockout Nights Cornhole League, May through August. Giveaways, BetMGM prizes, specials, whatever you want, they have it for you. Use that bonus code PHNX. There's a few different offers depending on where you're at live. But for our friends in Arizona, you're going to get up to $100 in bonus bets on your first wager with BetMGM. Make sure you're using that bonus code PHNX. And check out the show notes for full details. And now listen to my guy, Shane Diefenbach, talk about it in the disclaimer.
Disclaimer, 21 plus to wager. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in Washington, D.C., Mississippi, Nevada, New York, and Ontario. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369, New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, Arizona. 1-800-522-4700, Kansas, Nevada. 1-800-327-5050, Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF, Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help, Michigan.
We have a reaction from one of the Arizona Cardinals star players. We'll bring that up here, but I first got to tell you that I was out there on the golf course just listening to me try to say $22.6 million, and you realize I got a couple wow wheats in me from Four Peaks, because we love Four Peaks. It's our, of course, official beer partnership. We love the friends over at Four Peaks. They're just down the road in Tempe from Dobson Ranch in Mesa. And you got to make sure you're following them on Instagram at Four Peaks Brew and at Four Peaks Pub on Twitter. You can get yourself 4 tickets to a Diamondbacks game. You get Four Peaks 4 seats. One lucky winner gets 4 seats to an upcoming Diamondbacks game. Tickets get D-Bucks, so you can grab some food on Four Peaks. Also get that delicious wow wheat, that hop knot, whatever you want. Go to their Instagram page at Four Peaks Brew. Of course, follow it and then hit the link in the bio and sign up to win those seats. Check out Four Peaks Brew, Four Peaks Pub on your socials. Keep up with the latest for Arizona's premier brewery. Got to be 21 years or older to drink Four Peaks. And, of course, drink it responsibly. All right, star Cardinals player, friend of D-Hop's out there on Twitter, Johnny.
Not friend of the program, though.
No, definitely not a friend of the program. What do we got?
Isaiah Simmons. Hello, Isaiah. Doing one of these with the emoji on Twitter.
Smack my face. Oh, what are we doing? Emoji.
Not good. I mean, hey, Isaiah, you want to get in line, my man? And I'm not trying to be a jerk. It's just they declined Isaiah Simmons' 5th-year option, and Hopkins has been rumored to be traded all offseason. Like, are you surprised by this, Isaiah? I mean, like, are you surprised he's not with the team? He's been talking about trying to leave the team. So
yeah.
This is not like the Cardinals cutting Budda Baker today. This is a player that has been a fringe roster player since January, but it's because Isaiah and D-Hop are tight. They're close buddies. We know that.
Yeah, two Clemson Tigers hang out in the offseason together. Yeah. I mean, and it's a good, like, if you're on the roster, it hurts probably even more to see more signs of a brutally transparent rebuild, right? That this team, the mindset isn't winning games right now. Like the reality, the sober reality of that one of your years is likely going to be lost again. Now back-to-back seasons staring down not a whole lot of winning football games. It's tough. And when you're Isaiah Simmons and you're staring down, becoming a free agent yourself next offseason, probably at the earliest, right? You would assume that he's going to stick with this roster the rest of the way through. It's tough. It's tough to see that. It's also interesting to see that too. Like, you would think as close as he and D-Hop are, that he saw the writing on the wall. Maybe he's just like, that's just, people want to see reaction. Here's my reaction.
Yeah, and that's fine. Listen, Isaiah, go get your money, whether it's from the Cardinals or somebody else. I don't have a problem with it. I got some issues with some stuff Isaiah Simmons does. That's
Is this
not
true,
one of them.
Simon? Is that right? Are you spiking the football on Marvin Harrison Jr. clips on your Twitter right now?
That might be preloaded here. Now, like I wasn't ready to go full Marvin Harrison Jr. and now like I'm diving 2 feet in. I absolutely love it. It's like a hot
MHJ.
You got to dive.
MHJ, please.
You
yes.
got to dive 2 feet in. Lil Dreezy 13. Thank you so much, friend of the program. $4.99 super chat. D-Hop ain't the difference of us tanking and trying to win. It's when Kyler comes back.
No doubt.
100% agree with you. That's I think more so than anything, that is the storyline for the 2023 season. How do they handle Kyler Murray's return, and does it show their hand as to how they're going to move forward with that position? Because I think we've got a little bit now, even if it's 10 to 20% more of insight as to what they're trying to accomplish in 2024. Shed money. Kyler Murray has a top 10 to 7 cap hit in the NFL. So if Kyler Murray comes back in late September, October and crushes, then we have our answer. If Kyler Murray is not back in November, in December, then we have our answer. They know they have an idea of exactly what we're doing. Now, based on the people I've talked to, and take this for what it's worth, like I don't think they're punting with Kyler Murray on the 2023 season. I think they're going to play him when he's ready to play. And I don't think it's going to affect their draft status in terms of like, they're not thinking we need to lose 17 games. We can't have Kyler play. We know that definitively that's not how they're thinking. But if they come to a conclusion that Kyler is not ready and they're 0-7, then they're going to have conversations. Then those are conversations that are going to say, just like we're seeing now, we're thinking long-term rather than short-term. It's not a precarious situation to be in the short term, Bo.
What has been, and you might not be able to think of one, but what has been the biggest embrace of the previous regime from the current regime?
I would say, I can think of one. I would say at the uniform release show that we were at nighttime in downtown Phoenix, like Cameron Thomas, Majay Sanders, like Trey McBride rocking the uniforms.
Okay.
As small as that is, I think that is, that's showing, hey, these guys are going to be a part of what we're doing here.
But also a trio of guys who were part of that process, right? All the lead up videos like DJ Humphries. Like, I think we're watching his swan song as an Arizona Cardinal this year.
I think that's more having to do with money, though. I honestly do.
Zach Ertz, James Conner,
those are money things. You can't have them around at robust 7-8 figure salaries, and then we're seeing that right now. Now the Hopkins thing, though, how Hopkins has handled this, and maybe he's handled it perfectly from his end because it's gotten him released. He gets to pick his team now. So kudos to D-Hop handling it the way he wanted to.
Yeah,
but they want guys who are about the team. And again, people can roll their eyes on what is that me versus we thing, and do the Cardinals deserve that because of how they treated players? 100%. You can throw shade at this organization because it hasn't been well run. But I think, Bo, it's as cut and dry as who is making money and who is not. And if you're not making any money and you're talented, then you're safe. If you're making money, even if you're talented, you're not safe.
Yeah, and Ryan, biggest embrace, you question, like embracing competence. Absolutely. And that's my point, right? Like the current regime, the new front office, new coaching staff, it is not tying itself to the previous organization, the players that were in that organization whatsoever, no matter how they impacted this fan base and what their role and how they helped the team potentially win games, before this. They are in the business of cleaning up this mess, getting this roster in a position that they're tearing it down in the studs, and then they're going to rebuild it back up from there. And they're going to do it with a ton of draft capital that they already have. And they're going to draft and develop those guys that they selected this past draft and in future drafts. And then they'll fill in the gaps a little bit, maybe not big splashes via free agency, unless some guy, makes his way to the open market that they didn't anticipate. But they'll be in a position to lock guys in and future extensions, and potentially if they need to go out there and spend, they'll do that. But, guys like Connor, Ertz, Humphries, that are all guys that I think fans like, right, and are easy to root for, it's still like, doesn't matter to them. They're doing it almost like, they are faceless to this new regime. They are numbers on a roster, numbers as far as what they make, as far as money, and as far as position wise, that plays a big factor as far as the organization. Linebacker, safety, positions that they're not going to spend a ton of money on. They're certainly not going to spend $30 million on a 31-year-old wide receiver cap wise. And DeAndre Hopkins, they made that clear today.
Libertarian Sasquatch echoing, I think, the thoughts of 90% of Cardinal fans. $1.99 super chat. Thank you so much. Not getting anything for Hop is pretty bleak.
Yeah,
I think so. I don't know if it's been made easier, Bo, by the fact that we've had this conversation for 6 months and like they could not get a singular pick for him. They have tried and it has not worked out. Nobody wanted to give a pick away for DeAndre Hopkins. I think that had they cut him in February, it's a different message than today. And I don't think it would be a bad idea for Monty Ossenford and Jonathan Gannon to come out and just say, hey, we appreciate Hopkins' efforts for this franchise. We attempted many, many times to circulate compensation returning to the Cardinals, and it did not manifest. And I think coming from Ossenford, that would carry weight as it relates to what you just saw Ossenford do during the draft process. Like you can the man traded down in 3 straight rounds. Like he can wheel and deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you could take him at face value that, hey guys, we tried, and we know they tried. Like they wanted something back for DeAndre Hopkins. It was DeAndre Hopkins. And listen, like I don't look back on Hopkins' time with any ill will, but if you want to, you have the right to do that. I mean, he was suspended for 6 games. Now we're hearing from Kyle Odegaard like he held himself out those final 2 games. But I mean, I'm not pissed about that because it helped the Cardinals get the 3rd overall pick. But like, is the DeAndre Hopkins era going to be remembered fondly outside of the COVID year with the Hail Murray? I mean, it's been up and down. It has been up and down. And so for him to also self-sabotage the Cardinals' value to do what he wants, what's best for him, that is what's best for him. But if you're a Cardinal fan, you can be upset about that because you're not getting anything in return because of how Hopkins chose to handle this. He did not help the Cardinals at all here and did not feel like he needed to.
He didn't. No, he didn't. I mean,
and that's okay.
And look, it's also like you're asking him to give back money, and where he doesn't have anything that's guaranteed at this stage in his career. I'm sure he's going to probably get a decent deal, right? But at this, nothing is given in the NFL, and a lot is taken. So when you're sitting there and you're going to get $19 million, and they're saying, "Hey, give some of that back, and you can do what you want," it's like, well, no, I'm just going to force the hand of this organization because they made a business move. DeAndre Hopkins made a business decision. And it is what it is. And it's unfortunate. It's brutally unfortunate, especially the biggest victim here is the fan base because it becomes, as far as the turn signal goes for this organization, which direction it's going, it's further and further down rebuild lane. That's really lame. I apologize. But
let's do some math here. I'm going to try to give some hope to the
strength of this
here.
show.
Yeah. I was an English minor, communications major. We're going to do some math here. So the Cardinals, as it stands right now for 2024, have $52 million in cap space. Okay. If they were to move off of Budda Baker, that is an additional $15 million. If they move off of DJ Humphries, that is, I believe, an additional $16 million. And if they move off of James Conner, that's an additional $6 million. If they move off Zach Ertz, that's an additional $10 million. A pretty good idea of a scenario in which the Cardinals have $100 million in cap space in 2024. If you're scoring at home,
I've got that around 89,
and then you've got the
99
Dennis Gardeck's of the world. You've got some Beachums of the world. You can make some maneuvers, but I mean, they're going to have $100 million in cap space for the 2024 offseason as a result of this. Now, let's flip the script here on the same website via overthecap.com. If they part ways with Kyler Murray as a post-June 1st trade/release, they will save $3.5 million and they will have a dead cap hit of $48 million. And if they're paying D-Hop how much money to go away, $23 million to go away, will they pay Kyler Murray $48 million to go away? we'll find out. Is Han shot first? Do you think K1 is open to a restructure in 2024? No, I do not. I think
Why
I
not?
think like restructure in terms, maybe pushing money down the road.
Yeah, I think he
But
could he could restructure it into
Why do that,
bonus.
though? Why do that though? Because you have $100 million in cap space. Why do you need?
Well, yeah, I get that, but he's gonna have a $50 million cap hit next year. It's just it's big, you know. And you could save. I think the restructure you could save as much as $29 million.
Yeah.
So you know, it doesn't. But like the entire point of this thing is the DeAndre Hopkins release before June 1st. It doesn't take any future money on from DeAndre Hopkins. You wear it this year, and the possibilities are endless as far as how you want to go with this roster in 2024. They're going to have their entire scouting department in place. They're going to have a full season of college football that they're going to have scouted how they want to do it. They're going to know exactly which prospects they want. And they're going to also have a pretty good idea of which players they want via free agency that they can go out there and spend money on.
I love these comments from Michael Evans because I just agree with it. Look out. No one is safe. Not even K1. I love this comment. It's an all-out war now. I think it just cranks up the intensity that you better perform if you want to stick around. And that was not the case under Steve Keim. It was, hey, senioritis, as Bo mentioned yesterday. Reese in the chat, friend of the show, how much did the NFL cap go up for 2024? I don't know if that's been announced yet. Yeah, and I don't know if Over the Cap has taken that into an account, but it will go up and it will continue to go. Like Cardinals are going to have infinite cap space after 2023, and they've got healthy cap space now. Maybe we should put to bed maybe the idea of them adding some notable players ahead of the preseason now.
Yeah, I just don't see that like a Kareem Hunt, like unless Kareem Hunt, his market is completely dead and no team that has higher aspirations in 2023 is calling. I mean, because he's going to sign just above, if not the veteran minimum. Why not? Unless they're saying, hey, it's going to be a work share at the running back spot. But I mean, I even saw, in the chat, it was a good point when I say that James Conner's probably playing his final season in a Cardinals uniform. Why not just run up the mileage on his legs if you're able to do so?
He can make it.
Yeah, absolutely. So
you got to be able to field the team. What that team looks like. I
mean, who's saying in the chat about the Bears? They had close to $100 million this offseason. They could barely even spend that, and they went crazy. They're like giving your kid your credit card in high school.
But the Cardinals aren't going to be paying off-ball linebackers like
they would be. Well, if they did, they would do it in a 1-year deal. They would do it in a 1 year. We're going to pay you a lot of money this year just because we got the cap space, but we're not going to give you any guaranteed dollars beyond 1 or 2 seasons.
And I think this goes into, we've talked about their white whale defensive tackle. Like you could go in the next offseason and pay Quinnen Williams generational money to come here and play football for. Like that, those are going to be the positions that they look for. Number 1 corner, edge rusher, defensive tackle. But it also is who are the best draft prospects in the top 10 next year will also play into effect. But there are going to be bad teams in the NFL. Are the Cardinals going to be one of them? We're going to have to wait and see how bad they're going to be, if they are going to be bad. But this Matt in the chat, buckle up, 2-16 season coming. There's so much to be left up to chance and buy-in. Jonathan Gannon is not going out coaching, trying to lose games. And NFL players are not going out there trying to lose games. So I understand where Vegas and people, ESPN, Football Power Index, people want to just say, well, the Cardinals are going to be the worst team. There's no way to assure that. The Cardinals could overachieve. And people will say that's a mistake. It's going to cost them Caleb Williams. I don't disagree that what's better for this franchise, getting Caleb Williams in the first overall pick or winning 6 games and kind of being in a limbo. And what if Kyler Murray's not himself? Like there are layers to this year that we're just going to have to wait and see how they play out. But one of them, the first domino has fallen, which is DeAndre Hopkins. And if you feel like, man, I need to hydrate up because I don't know what's going on. Well, use our friends at Circle K. We're so excited to partner with Circle K. Check out your local Circle K. Best snack selection, coffee, beer, premium gas at not a premium price. They have got 12 packs of beer, $8.99, iced coffee, Red Bull, Monster Energy drinks, whatever you need. You need to load up and get through this tough time. Make sure you're doing it with our friends at Circle K. You're not missing out on all the great stuff they've got going on right now. Text PHNX to 31310 to join their SMS subscriber club. Get a buy one, get one free offer of a 32-ounce Polar Pop. Head to circlek.com/store-locator. That's circlek.com/store-locator to find the Circle K nearest to you, Bo.
I was out there today on the course during the Keep It 100 Big Drive Energy just golf tournament scramble, having a blast out there.
Until you weren't.
Yeah, until I wasn't. Was with Cam Cox, Alex Bookman, Justin Spears down from ESPN Tucson. We were talking it up sports. Didn't think we were going to be talking Cardinals today, but they were asking me about my Shady Rays. They say, hey, where'd you get those sunglasses? It was nice. It's like, I'm spreading the gospel of Shady Rays. They're unreal. They were keeping my eyes nice and comfortable and safe because they got the premium polarized shades going on. Take advantage of their Memorial Day sale. It's live today. Shady Rays Memorial Day sale is live right now. Go to shadyrays.com. Get 35% off all of their sunglasses. Every single sunglass that they have there is 35% off. Try for yourself the shades that are rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. I was hanging out there, loved my polarized shades on the golf course. They were perfect. They're better than any kind of like designer brand, big brand name. Shady Rays is better than that. You got to get and try for yourself. With 250,000 people have already rated 5 stars. Take advantage of their Memorial Day sale. 35% off all shades at shadyrays.com. Let's take a look at their wide receiver depth chart now.
Do we have to? Okay. Yeah.
Hollywood Brown, you are now wide receiver 1.
Which we thought we had a conversation earlier this week, like whether it was in training camp or midseason, quarter of a season, it's Hollywood's team. And I think he'll produce. But again, I think it's just a big old asterisk. Move that asterisk now to Hollywood Brown. Now that because Hollywood Brown was acquired by whom? Mr. Steve Keim. And Hollywood Brown is on a 1-year contract. And Hollywood Brown, should he leave, you get a 3rd-round comp pick for him. He has like a 1,200-yard year. Now, I wouldn't recommend that. You need wideouts, right? And what kind of deal would Hollywood Brown be expecting? I think if Hollywood Brown comes in and he and Drew Petzing hit it off, Bo, you got to keep him around. I think that, like, you asked me who's going to put themselves in a really good position to be, fond of this coaching staff and this front office. I'll revise my answer. I think it could be Hollywood Brown. He's shown up to everything. He's vocal about the organization. He showed up to Gannon's presser. He looks like he's in great physical shape. Plus, unlike Connor and Ertz and everybody, he's almost entering his prime now. He's coming off his rookie deal. Like, you could get the best years of Hollywood Brown under Drew Petzing and Jonathan Gannon. I think that's enticing for them.
Is he still 25? He's going to be 20. He's still relatively young, right?
Right. And I think his game's going to age well. I think he's a rhythm receiver. I think he needs targets. To me, I think Hollywood Brown has an opportunity to get paid by the Arizona Cardinals next spring. We just talked about his money. Like, that would be the ultimate comeback story of you get rid of D-Hop, Hollywood Brown in a tough year comes out and has 1,000 yards and you pay Hollywood Brown. I think that's a nice coup for Cardinal fans to be able to look ahead for. I don't think Hollywood Brown is going to be one and done with Arizona with this regime.
You don't think he slides into potential trade asset at the deadline?
I mean, it depends what you could get for him. But again, I don't want to do this hypothetical thing again. If you draft Caleb Williams first overall, you need targets for Caleb Williams. And what if you have the first pick and like the 7th pick? You're not giving Marvin Harrison Jr. in that situation. So if you get Caleb Williams has to have targets to throw.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, you have 6 potential picks.
What are you going to trade up for?
Yeah, I guess a team would have to.
That.
Yeah, they would for
for the next Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, Randy Moss.
Good point.
You gotta be 1-3 at worst, and I don't know if that's a guarantee. But if you're 1 and you're gonna know it's January, the season's over, and you got pick 1 and not pick 2 or 3. You got to keep Hollywood around if he produces. 100%.
It would be. Do you think? I think it would be a big sign that they're moving forward with Kyler as well, because I mean that connection is.
I don't.
No,
I don't think so.
It's just because obviously Petzing understands the value of having a true number 1 type caliber guy. He had it when they added Amari Cooper to the Cleveland wide receiver core. it made a difference. I mean, instead of running out Donovan Peoples-Jones and old Javaris Landry and Anthony Schwartz, they had a guy that transformed that wide receiver core, and you certainly need it. But I can also envision, like, when I look at that depth chart and it's Hollywood Brown, it's Rondale Moore, Greg Dortch, I see those two top guys in Brown and Moore, to where they do have that black cloud more so than anybody left, of like being chosen by the previous regime, and like they could be sent packing just as easy as well.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's likely. I think that he's got as good a chance as anybody to stick around, because
so Hollywood's X, right? He just moves back to the spot that he played the first 6 games of the season before the injury and during the D-Hop suspension.
Ryan's blowing me grief because I said I think Houston or the Cardinals could be picking 7th overall. Listen, man, I think the Cardinals are going to be better coached this year, and yeah, they have less talent, but it's really hard to be terrible for 17 weeks. Can we emphasize that again? You have to be unwatchable. Does anybody think the Cardinals and the Houston Texans are going to be unwatchable? I don't. I think they're going to be. Okay, don't make that face.
We don't know. You could look. I love Jonathan Gannon. I like his coaching staff, but look, you got a 29-year-old defensive coordinator, a 35-year-old offensive coordinator, and the last coach, was it the second or last coach hired during the hiring process? Like, as far as the perception, like, I understand the skeptics out there. As far as what I've heard from Jonathan Gannon, I think he said everything that you want to hear from your head coach. I believe in Jonathan Gannon, but I still, like, Jonathan Gannon's going to tell you don't know until they hit the grass. You don't know until they take the field how things are going to go. And as far as this roster goes, it's undermanned to say the least. But at the same time, there could be an opportunity with good coaching. We've seen a team with, what's considered one of the worst rosters. We saw Miami, play itself out of a top pick, going from 2020 to 2021, right? They played themselves. They won 5 games, and they were way more competitive than people even thought they were going to be. So that's going to be big on this coaching staff, and a lot of pressure to do so. But that's what this year is going to be. Like, we're going to figure out now, like, is Jonathan Gannon, is he cut from the cloth of one of 32? Can he show that he can belong even when he doesn't have, even if he has an inferior roster?
I got Soul Pancakes coming after me because of my love affair with Circle K. I'm not going to apologize for it. Thank you so much for the super chat, $5. No one likes Circle K over QT. Let's be real. I do. I like Circle K as my premier.
The gas prices are. It's not even a question. Circle K's got better gas prices.
We're not chills. This is how we trust our partners, and this is how we feel. But we love you, Soul Pancakes, friend of the program.
I got gas at $4.49 yesterday. That's unheard of in the Valley.
It is.
What else? What else do you need?
You might need a trip to Octane Raceway in Maverick Memorial Day weekend. If you need something to keep your kids busy, they're ready to rock and roll for you. May 29th, Memorial Day, Mavericks free bowling for veterans and active duty personnel who show their military ID, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. In addition, the venue is going to open early at 10 a.m. with a bunch of doorbuster deals. We love our friends at Octane Raceway in Maverick. They've got $20 game cards for free. Buy one, get one free laser tag. Again, if you got some kids like I do, you want some entertainment over the course of the holiday weekend, check out Octane Raceway in Maverick. They've got free axe throwing, all active and retired military personnel. Book some fun this spring with our friends at Octane Raceway in Maverick. Kart racing, virtual reality, laser tag, axe throwing, bowling, arcade, whatever you want to do. May 30th, by the way, through August 4th, they've got free bowling all summer long for kids, the free program for them. 15 and under are eligible for 2 free games a day. Love that. Grow the game. Tons of different events throughout the summer. You got to check them out, though, at octaneraceway.com, mavericks.com to learn more.
D-Hop taking advantage of that $4.49 a gallon on his way out of town. Absolutely. No doubt about it. And also a tip of the cap to D-Hop, all the things he did philanthropically here in the Valley, and he'll continue to do. He was a part of so many different events. Remember, he was going out and giving out cold water to people in the dead of summer before last season. Things he was doing around the holidays. He's a good dude, despite him and his tenure coming to an end. Probably going to have a vacant mansion here pretty soon, along with the one in PV from Cliff Kingsbury. That's going to be furnished. And why not furnish it with our friends over at More Furniture and do it with the Memorial Day sale that's live right now. Save up to 50% at More Furniture. Get in right now, morefurniture.com. Check out the best furniture at the best price in the Valley. For your living room, dining room, kids' room, your bedroom, your entertainment center. Get some mattresses, get some good deals on that. You can take advantage of that white glove delivery. They'll deliver it for you. They'll set it up for you, get rid of all the packaging materials, and they'll put it exactly where you want. Morefurniture.com. Take advantage of the Memorial Day sale, up to 50% off everything.
We're going to have a lot of time to break down the significance of this move as it relates to DeAndre Hopkins. But would you say that the DeAndre Hopkins era was a success for the Arizona Cardinals?
You still make that deal. Did you get what you expected from it? Year one, yeah, you did. But then beyond that, unfortunately, no, it didn't. But that's the harsh reality of the NFL, right? Things that you think are proven commodities can be, this league humbles a lot of people. And, DeAndre Hopkins comes in, 14 receptions in his first game against San Francisco is every bit of the top wide receiver that we knew he was coming into this league, if not the top guy at the time. And then, you get a year older, you face some injuries that he hadn't faced yet, hamstring, knee, and then PED suspension. It's like things can fester quick. And I think that as far as where things are right now, it's just nothing went how you want it to go or how you envisioned when we were spiking the football after the Cardinals pulled off maybe the heist of the century in the NFL by getting DeAndre Hopkins for a bad David Johnson contract and a second-round pick.
Yeah, I mean, you would make the deal again. And I think the hardest thing is I don't even think the Cardinals wasted DeAndre Hopkins. I think they wasted Kyler Murray's rookie deal. They needed more acquisitions like DeAndre Hopkins. And I think that the fact that this franchise was run so fast and loose during Hopkins' era did not help. I mean, like maybe you enabled DeAndre Hopkins to, do some things he otherwise wouldn't do with an organization that was buttoned up. And I think that same can be said for Kyler Murray. Leadership starts at the top. So I think that we're going to see DeAndre Hopkins go somewhere and have success. That's going to be difficult for Cardinal fans, whether it's the Bills or the Chiefs or the Eagles or whomever, Cowboys. The Cardinals are going to have to eat that for a year. But I think that it's important to understand that the people that are put in charge right now, this would be exponentially more difficult if Steve Keim was still running the operations for the Arizona Cardinals, and the lack of faith that you had in that human being to do the job at a high level or even a competent level. So for me, the biggest questions that remain are, what is the outlook for 2023 and where does Kyler Murray fit into this team beyond this season? Because he's being paid as the franchise quarterback, but he's a franchise quarterback that the owner did not have full confidence in. That's why they put that clause in the contract. He's coming off a major injury, and I love this new regime and I love what they're doing with K1, but they have no allegiance to him. And so I don't think this is the first shoe to drop, but Bo, to your earliest point, when I hopped on the show, it gives them options, right?
Yeah.
It gives them options should things go awry and they want to pivot. They have the opportunity to pivot now.
Yeah. It's a great point. I just, the Cardinals are in they have cleaned up the mess left over by Keim. And now Monty Ossenford, I think, obviously there's going to be still some tough decisions to make, and I'm sure they'll make them throughout next season as early as that. Like, I don't think that this is the final shoe to fall as far as this team goes, but as far as big time names, like I don't anticipate a Budda deal to go down. Like Budda doesn't have leverage where the Cardinals have all the leverage, where, the Cardinals had no leverage with D-Hop. And it's just as far as facts and circumstances and age and different variables or red flags as they were considered here with DeAndre Hopkins. So eating $22.6 million before the June 1st deadline That was the move that this organization, they wanted to get him off the books by hook or by crook. They did it. And it's, unfortunately the by way of release and nothing in return. And it's, like I said, I still think it can be a minor strike against Monty Ossenfort because your hands are tied to an extent, but not being able to cash in, it still hurts and I'll stack it up in like the cons row for Monty Ossenfort, but he's got a lot of pros in what he's done this offseason so far as Cardinals GM.
And DeAndre Hopkins already made a comment underneath the Cardinals Instagram post, said love always. And I do think that is different than how some Cardinals have exited the organization. Anquan Bolden, Tyrann Mathieu, players upset with the franchise. So, and I don't think DeAndre holds ill will against Gannon and Ossenfort. I think there was an understanding. Remember, Ossenfort met with with DeAndre Hopkins back in February, and they had a come into football Jesus moment of basically saying, hey, let's figure out the best deal for both sides. And I think at the time they thought, well, we're going to be able to get a draft pick. And that didn't happen. So now DeAndre Hopkins has said, well, guys, I was never going to restructure my deal, and you didn't trade me for a draft pick. So now I'm going to make things uncomfortable. And it lasted about 2 weeks. We talked about on the show, about 3 to 4 days ago, like there's a new DeAndre Hopkins podcast clip dropping every other day about where he'd like to play other in Arizona, other quarterbacks, Cardinals. It was not sustainable. We knew that. And now it reached a breaking point. And for Cardinal fans, it's an unfortunate one.
Yeah. Actually, during this entire episode, I've been cooking crow that I can eat on behalf of Albert Breer, who's joined this show before, and I'll do it for the PHNX Cardinals podcast. I'll say, Albert,
thank you.
You were right. You were right. It pains me to say it. You said this. You speculated on this months ago that teams could be waiting for the Cardinals to outright release DeAndre Hopkins. Here we are.
We're big men here, and we will admit when we're wrong. And it doesn't happen that often. But I think anybody who told you that the D-Hop would be outright released because the Cardinals couldn't trade him, I mean, we talked to many, many insiders, Combine, Super Bowl week, and everybody told us that they're going to ask for a 1, they'll get a 2. They're going to ask for 2, they'll get a couple 3s. And it took a dark turn for this franchise. But I think, again, and I can only go back to this so many times, Bo, the trade down from 3 has set this franchise up for the future. And so it made this easier.
That's what Joe's talking about. He's got somebody in the poor break room that's breaking down, is crying because he doesn't understand the bigger picture, though. And that's what Johnny's talking about right there. I mean, they are taking this thing down to the studs, and they're going to build it back up. They're going to be armed with draft capital and cap space, and they're going to be able to get bigger, stronger, more athletic, and they're going to draft and develop guys, and they're doing it the right way. When people were clamoring, when they were pounding the table back in October, November, December, when this team was floundering and said, you gotta hit the reset button. You got to do things the right way for the first time in ever. You got to get rid of Steve Keim. He's a bum. You got to get rid of Cliff Kingsbury. He's a bum. And you got to right this ship. This is what it looks like. And unfortunately, there's some very unpopular decisions that come along with that. And thank God Monty Ossenfort is the guy that's willing to make them because some people don't have thick enough skin to do so. And I got to give him credit. It's as much as I say it's a strike, it's a necessary evil, and it's for the benefit potentially of this team. Now, like I said, we put so much emphasis on the draft for Monty Ossenfort. He's got to trade down, right? And he's going to accumulate picks, but you got to do things with those picks. And he did it. It feels like he made the right picks in this draft, and he's the right guy moving forward with this organization.
Yeah, 100%. And again, the healing process, when it's going to begin, we're gonna let you know, because we're still in the middle of what is a full-blown teardown. This is a teardown. This is not a retool. This is not a Band-Aid over a huge wound on the franchise.
Yeah.
This is
gunshot.
This is oh, Jesus. This is the organization, the people that are in charge. These are the new football operations people saying, the Cardinal team that you see right now, this is not our Cardinal team. Excuse me. The Cardinal team that you see in 18 months.
My God, take a breath. Take a breath.
Oh, man. It's like the ghost of Michael Bidwell came after me and was like, no, we're still going to be viable in 2023. Keep your season tickets. But I don't want to make this. We're not going to bleed this out with Kyler Murray will be gone in 2024.
Yeah.
But if you asked me today if I felt as confident of Kyler Murray being the franchise quarterback of this team after this year, I would say no. I feel less confident now than I did before today.
Someone get the Wing King some water, Mike A.
We're just giving out spicy takes, so I need a little bit of giving out. Listen, let's be real. Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. are generational blue chip
Electric
prospects.
Factory. Yeah, absolutely. That's what State Farm Stadium, it would become the Electric Factory. Caleb Williams is a cheaper, bigger version of Kyler Murray. I know that he's got a long season to play at the college ranks in order to continue to prove that, but he's absolutely the real deal. He's him at the college level, and things would have to go horrifically wrong for him not to be the top pick.
And Marvin Harrison Jr. And listen, also, we got a lot of time to have this conversation, and it goes back to my Hollywood Brown point. Like, Caleb Williams, if he's the first pick, and the Cardinals have the first pick, like, we don't want an Eli Manning situation where somebody refuses to go somewhere. And if Hollywood Brown's on the team, that makes it more enticing. You got tackles, you got weapons, and you got competence here. I think that matters. You can tear it down this year.
They could make that case, right? And you could say, hey, look, Monty Ossenfort would be like, I understand where you're coming from. I read all the headlines. I see Florio come at me every week about something that the previous regime did. That ain't us anymore. Look at what we've done. This is where we're going. And I can tell you that. I can give you that plan. That they're not the Cardinals of old, and it's tough decisions like this, and not caving necessarily. Here's one part of it that I think is important, right? Monty Ossenfort didn't take pennies on the dollar for DeAndre Hopkins, and he didn't also necessarily let him kind of like dictate this thing. He didn't take a bad trade, and he did what he had to do in order to kind of keep things like he wasn't going to be a pushover in the eyes of the NFL. Like he wasn't just going to give DeAndre Hopkins away, even though he had to release him. Like he kind of kept like a power position by just outright cutting. Don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. But somebody just reminded me in the chat, John, that Caleb Williams is being coached by Cliff Kingsbury this year.
A little bit.
Yeah, that I don't need that bad juju, Caleb. Don't you do that to me.
Let's look at it like this. USC is a car. Lincoln Riley is driving that car. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cliff Kingsbury is maybe in the trunk.
I don't want Cliff to have negative influence though over
not.
Caleb Williams as it relates to my precious Cardinals. Mike in the chat, $2. Did you see the mention on the Pat McAfee show for PHNX Cardinals? I think producer Emma put the screen capture in our work Slack. We'll have to check that out. We can say this wholeheartedly. Pat McAfee's a friend of PHNX Cardinals. He's been on the show. We've had some tweets used on his show. I've had some tweets. So we love Pat McAfee. Pat listen, it'd be remiss for me if I didn't say that, but also like I don't want to celebrate this Hopkins thing. It'd be cooler if it was like the day that D-Hop got traded to the Cardinals and PHNX Cardinals were talking about it. I would love for that to be the reason we're on Pat McAfee. But yeah, it's a tough day for Cardinal fans. It's tough.
Friend of the program, Pat McAfee.
We got 300 people friends of the program. Hit that like button, by the way. How about this man to my right, leaving his golf outing to come hold down the fort until I can get some time to chat with him. Mr. Brack, crushing it per usual. Producer Emma, crushing it per usual. This is not we're happy
Emma
to have
beat me here. Emma was way ahead of any of us. It was unbelievable. I was out there.
The conversation we wanted to have today.
I was mid-stroke. Phone blew up. I had to wake nobody has been in this position. I had the golf tournament. I woke my ass up this morning. I had to wake my 2-year-old up. He was like, what the hell is this? I have to go drop him off to go play golf. I'm like, this is going to be great. I'm going to play golf. And I'm at the turn. I'm literally at the turn at the Keeping It 100 Big Drive Energy golf tournament there in Dobson Ranch. And my phone is just going absolutely nuts at the drop of a hat because the Cardinals released DeAndre Hopkins. And it's a polarizing topic. you know, you can see the forest through the trees on this and what the organization is doing. But if you're upset about it, I completely understand you as well. I mean, there's nuance in this, and it like for the absolute casuals, for them to be crying in the break room, that's fine. But also to understand that this was a necessary move for this organization in order to be able to do whatever they wanted and not be tied down by the sins of their predecessors. This was a big move in doing so.
I'm gonna end on this if I could, Bo.
Yeah.
Reese in the chat, and he's echoing something I've seen a lot. Kyle Odegaard, friend of the program, has suggested this as well. If we land pick number 1, it will be traded for a haul. I disagree. I just
a little bit.
I can't. If we land the number 1 overall pick, it will be traded for a haul. If we land the number 1 overall pick, this schmuck thinks that Caleb Williams will be the first overall pick to the Arizona Cardinals, based on everything that we've seen and heard. Believe their actions, don't believe their words. Their actions said we're going to eat $23.5 million from an all-pro receiver to tell him not to play. It's a dollars and cents game, and Caleb Williams will be the most valuable NFL commodity in decades, and they will not take draft picks for that. There's not enough draft picks in the world if Caleb Williams has the year we think he's going to have to be able to trade away Caleb Williams. Teams can only trade 3 first-round picks at a time. You would need 10 first-round picks. It's just I could be dead wrong. You can clip this. They're not. Reese will bet this net right now, and I love Kyler Murray. I've been a Kyler Murray supporter for years. Caleb Williams will be a Cardinal if they have the first overall pick, Bo Brack.
Yeah, I don't disagree with it. I mean, I think that they entertain all options, but I think at the end of the day, how enticing the caliber of prospect that Williams is, the idea of just absorbing $46 million, but still having
for 1
more
year
than enough. Yeah, more, but you'll still have the ability to do whatever you want roster-wise next offseason regardless, and then be locked into a player the caliber of Caleb Williams and another premium draft pick. I mean, that's tough to pass up, and it would sting because, yeah, you and I are both Kyler Murray supporters, no doubt about it. We want to see him thrive in the Valley and still think that there's an opportunity to do so. But as far as football business goes, it would be naive not to heavily consider that.
And unlike the DeAndre Hopkins scenario, in my opinion, I think you would get something in return back for Kyler.
Yeah,
Murray.
and then there's great beard games. Make a great point. If it's third, trade back. Have several conversations with and do exactly what Monty Ossenfort did this past offseason and drive up that price.
Yeah,
and either stick and pick and take the best non-quarterback at third. You probably take Marvin Harrison Jr. there, right? That's simple, and then trade the other pick. We'll see. I mean, they had good problems now. They're starting to have good problems. Before, even up to today, it's a bad problem to have. Absolutely. But
we can talk about this next week on the show. How does this affect Budda Baker? In the meantime, like this show, subscribe to the PHNX Cardinals podcast. Is Budda safe? I think he is. Do they reallocate some money to Budda Baker? Probably not. They're not in a hurry to do anything unless it's shedding cap and accumulating assets. And we have some great assets here at PHNX. Check them out at gophnx.com. Become a diehard. Subscribe to the podcast. We appreciate you all. Try to have a fun family-filled weekend during the holiday weekend. Bo, go back out and hit him straight on the golf course. Are you going to venture back out? You going to go back out and hit him?
No, it's over, my guy. I think we had less than 9 holes to play.
Nice.
I was playing surprisingly well. Saul Bookman, the GM, he boasts about a big golf game. His son certainly has it. Saw Frank Sanders out there. He was killing it.
Can Frank play this fall for us, by the way? Could you pull double duties? Maybe jump on PHNX Cardinals and then jump on the field.
Size. You know number 81 should be back out there.
You guys are the best. Love you all. Bo Brack, I'm Johnny Venerable. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star. We'll see you next week.